Stocha an dain agus locht in estiachta tíh muich go éan chomach go sé de breanúir seo agus iad líonraí a bhí céir a hálacht a bhhaoine a thucach go héan dá éireach leis agus is tógur bin cean gona cúisinaí go an rialtas chódingháilte sin nach néireach leis.
The search for Mr Tidy has been going on now for over 2 days. The men coordinating the search here at Farnham Garda station say there has still been no contact or ransom demand from the men holding him.
The policy ag rialtas amadacha sin gan ransom íoc mar úsáid faoi an ransom chun goní agus aram a cheannach agus is inoltas arachach rúdaí Damarú dé go níoch fé ransom chun daine héarú. Agus bhí an policy sin ag féna fáil freisin ó bhíad os rialtas. Agus bé sin an bun policy bhí ann rééis a coga dámda go dtí an látáinniu bháin. Agus ní raibh an darará ag rialtas am dacha sin ach códach a bheith ann chun Don TIDEY a héarú.
Latní an chórdach ar fud na tíre, bhí olmhargaí Quinnsworth ag impi ar a gcuid customary cabhrú leis na Gardaí.
It is now over a week since our chairman Don TIDEY was abducted. We are very concerned that there has still been no contact from the kidnapped gang. If anybody who is watching now knows anything or knows somebody or something, I appeal to them to pass this information on to the manager of your store or your local Garda station.
Ach fós bhí an rialtas imneach gníochach máthar chomhlach bhreatanach Tidy airgid fuscailte chun é a héarú.
The search was concentrated in Leitrim this morning and later moved across to the Armagh-Monaghan border. Army units and detectives searched derelict farm buildings and houses in that area, and checkpoints were in operation.
Gardaí say they have no firm information which would suggest that Mr Tidy might be being held on an island, but they're going to check as many as possible of them over the next 2 days.
Bhí na léhananta ag sleanú gan tásc na tuairisc. Bhí nód éigean de dhí ar chlan Tidy a hispánach go raibh nathair fós slán sábháilte.
The family's appeal was made at their home in South County Dublin. While it's believed that a ransom demand has been made to Quinnsworth's, the family revealed that no contact had been made with them.
No, none as yet.
Were you aware that he might have thought that he might be kidnapped at some stage, that he might be a target?
It's always been a possibility, and it's obviously been talked about in a very relaxed way on and off. But again, you never think it's going to be your father.
We want to know that our father is well and fit now. And if my father could contact us, or the kidnappers could contact us, and give us some proof that he is well.
Susan, just assuming that your father is in a position to hear or see this interview, to give him any message?
Yes, just that we're fine, and he doesn't have to worry about us, but we're worrying about him.
Go hificúil, dúrú nach raibh aon teangaháil ó na fúdathirí, chá bhis, ach ag an am ba chosúil go raibh acusan a bhí an lámh an uachtar.
Tasn siad a códach timp na tíar ar fad. Ach bhí ar a fara buil den IRA, agus daimsí siad glúiseachtaí nefganách buil an IRA ar a teoran, go háirithe I neisceat nóna gáil agus I dóisceat Leitrim. Agus capital on son go raibh Tidy a bhilach sin.
Tonight, the area within a 10-mile radius of Ballinamore, County Leitrim, is virtually sealed off with roadblocks.
The Provisional IRA would not have engaged in a high-profile kidnapping like this unless they had their logistics in place. Not just the people who carried out the kidnapping, but the people who would have sussed out the area, the people who would have made sure that roads and lanes and all the rest were clear in advance. The people who would have engaged in intelligence to make sure that there weren't informers in their midst. All of those kind of things. It's not that they were perfect at what they did, but they were very meticulous about what they did.
The Asper Gardaí ar fáil, agus dóigh Larry Rinnan commissionéir go og fwy na mi clénas teampel mór agus fyr og acili crog a bhíon agus de bheith si di nawn cód go dín teampel na tíre ins na sléite ins na forí seo húsa sin agus sin í anfágar na mi clénas teampel mór pátach sa códach.
Well, I was allocated as an inspector to Ballinamore to take over a group of men. Allocated to me that time was 10 recruit Garda from the training centre under Sergeant Liam Wall. Included in the group was Gary Sheehan. Now, I was very, very surprised and absolutely delighted to meet Gary that day. I knew Gary for a long number of years. In fact, I interviewed him when he applied to join the Garda. He was a neighbour for a number of years, played football with my own children. A lovely lad.
Agus an nolagi teacht, tugu Operation Santa Claus mar códanam an bhachtas cuairdaithe a bhí díirithe faoi 1,000 timpeall bhaile an ótha mhóir.
So each day now with the group of men, we headed off to do our designated search in that particular Ballinamore area. So we searched from 9 a.m. until dark on the 14th, and we continued the same on the 15th. And then on the 16th again, we commenced at 9 a.m. and we searched through very hilly country, tough terrain. It was cold and it was wet. We ended up near Gerrada Wood at approximately 1:30. After about 20 minutes, somebody shouted, "There's a man here." And with that, shots were fired. A bomb blast went off, and then there was a sustained burst of gunfire. I shouted to clear the wood. Now, as I exited the wood myself, I had a couple of other men beside me. I looked over at the other end of the wood and I saw men with their arms in the air, and I thought for a moment that we had taken prisoners. But as I approached it, it was a guard who had his arms in the air, so I knew then that hostages had been taken. We got down to the bottom of the hill. I met an army officer and I asked him would he organise a search of the wood. Halfway down, a person shouted, "Guard the dead over here." I went over and it was Gary Sheehan. I said with an act of contrition in his ear. A short distance away, another man said, "Soldier dead over here." I told Garda Daisy Sheridan to say an act of contrition in his ear. So with that, we exited the wood, left it to the forensic men to take over from there.
There's keys in it. Get in the fire! Get in!
In anion gur headar I gár éilethe, ba ghear gur thugad na cosaló, trasna na pácanna agus na cnic.
Hánig an scéal go bladlí a bhés im ladlí hánig an scéal isteach. Be an céad scéal a hálan a hánig na Garda Tidy slán.
Agus na fúdathirí ar a deithú, dairi le Don TIDEY éilú watha.
Go garad in í sin Garda Garda go lá Garda. Agus hánig an scéal go léir isteach an son Garda bet do waríochán. Gary Sheehan agus Paddy Kelly.
Latest reports suggest the Garda and the soldier killed during a gun battle this afternoon died as a result of wounds received when a grenade was thrown at the search party.
This morning I travelled to Carrickmacross where I met the father and mother of Garda recruit Sheehan. I sympathised with him. I met his grandfather also, and it's interesting that his grandfather joined the Garda Síochána in 1924, and that the Sheehan family have been in the Garda almost since the foundation of the state. Grandfather, father, and now the son who has so tragically been killed in this particular security operation.
Crinogum, Lishnamik Lianilla, Visa Ron Kane, Legary Sheehan, Agus V. Andy War, Ledzoga, named in a dig the Ishweblin, Vianta. Ak Peter Kroger was Dot Melager of Hadico Dollarwalia, no dollar Ashkadi, Temple Moore, Torder, Lenishid, Lenishid, Shankotok.
The hunt for Don Tidy's kidnappers and the killers of a Garda recruit and army private has been described as the biggest combined Garda army operation in the history of the state. Up to 1,000 army personnel giving search and firepower backing to the Gardaí. Earlier today, the man in charge of the search, Garda Chief Superintendent J.J. McNally, was confident, even at that stage, that the kidnapper fugitives were still inside his double-ring dragnet.
I am very satisfied with the way it's going. It's a slow process, no doubt due to the nature of the terrain, mountainous country, rather rough type of country, more rough than usual.
But are you confident that the men are still inside your net?
I am pretty confident that we have them contained in that area.
Honig sé consolis go raibh Don Tidy agus na fúdaitheoirí I gro fully, campa plastic I nearra ada fan thom go léir, trí lá is fihid. Lean sealag na marafóirí sa ceantar, ach ní ra mór an dabhtaigh muinte na háite go raibh siad faoin am sin I bhád ar shiúil.
Cap na Garda go raibh an rinne of steel thar simple bell na hamór ach deirtar go raibh an ceatar go raibh siad I deach seach na 8 míle an áit ag eol té ag breathnú an telefíse go séadlóg an ihe sin agus bhí siad slán sa bhailte. An rud rúbhéalach ar fad fin scéal ná gur Mario Saidúr agus Garda agus is tócha gur bé sin an rud a chorás go mór do ghoine an seo ná gur Mario Birch. An déobh sin, an déobh eile de tar éis an nachtra is tócha go raibh daoine sais an muomh gur búlú bob ar na Sherivísi an Tarm agus na Gardaí, mar bhí an túfás Gardaí agus Saidúr I thar timpeall. Agus is tócha gur an chuigur éirí le ceatar éaló as sin, chuir sé aontas ar daoine thar timpeall.
The area around the hideout in Drumcrumman Wood, where Don Tidy was held by his IRA captors, has over the past few weeks been the scene of an exhaustive forensic examination.
I arrived down here on the 17th, the morning after the shooting, proceeded to do my work here. In this vicinity, it would seem that the tent was located. Some 40 feet away, the bodies of both Garda Sheehan and Private Kelly were located. On this ditch was the body of Private Kelly. Some 12 feet away was the body of Garda Sheehan. It is more difficult to deal with when it's a colleague, a Garda colleague, and particularly a young person doing their job. It's always sad to come across somebody who's been shot down whilst doing just their job of work.
The 3 men Gardaí last night attempted and failed to apprehend were sheltering in this bungalow on the outskirts of Claremorris. All of them, it's thought, were involved in an incident at Ballycroy in West Mayo on the previous night, when a party stopped at a Garda roadblock, produced guns, tied up a sergeant and 2 Gardaí, and made off. The men burst out the front door as the group of Gardaí approached the house last night. They ran into a field across the road and fled into the darkness.
Ní bháin gur éirí leis na fúdaitheoirí éalú uair amháin ó na fórsaí slándála. Déala siad 3 uair ar fad.
This is the largest Garda Army search operation in the history of the state. Well in excess of 1,000 men are fine-combing South Leitrim, Cavan and parts of Monaghan. It's quite the most intense search I've seen north or south of the border.
The so-called ring of steel, of course, it turned out not to be a ring of steel. It was more like a rubber band which was stretched around a very complex area. I'm not quite sure why the guards and the government of the day allowed it to go on for so long, this reporting of the Ring of Steel. The Ring of Steel of 2,000 Gardaí, the biggest operation in the history of the state, if not the universe. And this is the way it was reported.
I would certainly say that from my experience in police after 40-year service nearly, it certainly is the largest operation that I have known.
I think this greatly undermined the Garda and undermined the confidence in the running of that operation when it turned out that there wasn't a Ring of Steel, that the numbers were much smaller, that there were escape routes and there were mistakes made on the day.
I've needed a morning to reorientate myself and adjust myself into my family surroundings. However, I personally feel at this moment in time it is indeed tinged with the utmost sadness for those who at this very moment, on this very beautiful day, are saddened by the loss of loved ones.
Ach níonis an Tom ceart le ceistena faoin draigóide ordú nuair a bhíothas a cuiinú na Marv. I gás Patrick Kelly, Far Céile, Aharóg, Saidiúr Dílis.
Two of Patrick Kelly's sons watch their father's coffin. It's carried past them down the aisle of this small church in Moat. The bearer party is composed of his army comrades in the Western Command. It's the age-old ceremony for fallen warriors.
Both victims of Friday's shootings were prayed for at the concelebrated Requiem Mass for Garda cadet Gary Sheehan in St. Joseph's Church in Carrickmacross.
Gonna chuid elúna mar Garda fiú críochnaithe, Gary Sheehan, 3 bliana is fiche díos.
Lá an dúrc sé mo chuimhne gur lá an dúrc lá Harbheith grúma fad a bhí an nó bheith trúid crícleiche go winter Gary Sheehan méal na nollag amach gá eileú agus iad críomhriste nói. Mar a bhí an pobl fad agus bhí ferrag roioine agus nó bhí ionadaithe rialtas fad an bhí maith agus mórús le na tíre fad ag an sochríd sin. Agus thar aonrad is stocha an rud a anna na mo chuimhne faoin sochríd chomaith leis an mrón agus an Milán an IRA as an rudúfasach a bhí tarlaithe. Gur an méid a bhí gárá chúla téirme na rud é nachrá árá os ard gáchúis mar nar heasí ó aon duine winter Gary Sheehan a ghortú ná a hiile gortú dhéanára agus chúis eile nar heasí wathe éon bhealach éon chinál solas a chuirt an IRA mar bhí gatainna aontaithe gur an IRA a bhí an Milánas cin méid a háda ach bhíhis sa plé freisin an Roise cíalúir an cuardacha dhéanamh a mealach a rinneú daoine óga nachrá ach faoi eilúnt go láiste an gáda a chur amach jab an tóirt sin an Roise sin cíalúir an rá an chuí a heagraíú an chuardach fada Roise sin cíalúir agus an rud eile cé chuí Mariú I Gary Sheehan mar ní Roise siléir bíad an IRA a bharí nó duine dá híomhhéin a bharí go himpeist agus ceistena is socha nar freagraíú a riomh.
Agus gan tásc nó túris na marafóí, this street today tonight na botún a dearnú an Dhearada.
There never was any possibility of a ring of steel. Real numbers were less than revealed to the media. Soldiers who had the job of protecting the search party were actually taken hostage themselves. However, when the full story is finally told, the escape by armed men from a house in Claremorris, surrounded by armed Gardaí, will prove to be the most extraordinary. Gardaí actually knew that those in the house were some of the kidnappers of Don TIDEY. So the kidnappers escaped possible capture, in all, 3 times.
The Gardaí got their man out alive, which was very important and was a triumph, because it was very possible that the provisional kidnappers would have shot him dead in certain circumstances. having found the hideaway up front face to face, that they were unable to contain them at that point or from that point on was undoubtedly a failure. And I think that they would admit that it was a failure.
They did find Don Tidy in this remote wood. Its owner, Jack Kernane, now stands charged with unlawful imprisonment. I spoke to his wife, Rose. She was also arrested but released.
I didn't know there was a hideout there at all. I didn't know anything.
Dini asmin rodé sílim. Sochagur be an cás bo umráchi in áíre ná gur cuid gona daoine a bhí haréis élo as prísúna ceisifada a mí man fóbhar rivisin go siad an animas a bheith baintach le seo. Agus bhí post a bhí na Gardaí sa tóir mar hampla ar lehéidí Bic McFarlane. Ach níor gaú Bic McFarlane. Maidir leis gás sin, gudí choin tó inan chéasta in í degnaí chohocht.
47-year-old McFarlane faces 3 charges in connection with the kidnapping of the
He successfully took High Court
Don
proceedings
Tidy
to stop the
14
trial
years
going
ago.
ahead.
He's charged with the false imprisonment of Don Tidy.
The Supreme Court
possession of a
criticised the Gardaí, but the trial goes ahead.
It took less than 5 minutes this afternoon for the 3 judges at the Special Criminal Court to discharge Brendan Bic McFarlane from the dock and state that he's entitled to the presumption of innocence of the charges of kidnapping Don Tidy and possession of a firearm 25 years ago.
In a long 10 years, and it's been an extremely difficult period for myself and my family. What I want to do now is put this behind me and move on.
It is to the credit of the whole search team that Mr Tidy was recovered safe. But it was at a terrible price, at the loss of 2 fine men.
Because of the price that was paid, a lot of people said, okay, enough's enough, ambiguity won't do. We've got to be clear where we stand. We may be nationalistic, but we don't support the use of physical force. When the Provisional IRA realised there were limitations on the use of force, as such, to that extent, perhaps the soldier and the Garda recruit contributed to the beginnings of that process.
I mína eleg se caite, 5 bliana is fiche tar éis na hachtarí brónacha in Garda, Lach Don Tidy, a tá fósa chuir faoi an éireann, Port is Sharmanis Cuoinecán don Saidir Patrick Kelly.
It looks highly likely that no one will ever be prosecuted for the murder of my father and, let's not forget, Garda recruit Gary Sheehan.
Níor bronnú bon óir scot dá chrógacht Gary Sheehan a riomh, a chuimhnítar sa teampall mór gach bliain le bronnú an Gary Sheehan Memorial Medal na céimethe Garda is fearr.
Next week, Scana looks back at the tragic murders of Imelda Riney and her 4-year-old son in County Clare in 1994. That's at 7:30 next Monday, here at 1.
Tonight at 9, a new report says the economy could shrink by 6% this year. Gardaí foil an attempted armed robbery at a businessman's home in County Galway, and the theatrical community joins that of Dalkey in paying final respects to Hugh Leonard. Join me at 9.